Hello everyone and welcome to Perfect Search's training on A/B testing. So, what is A/B testing? Essentially, it's when you compare two or more versions of a page to see which performs better. You ideally only want to compare two for the most part, so you would have version A and version B to similar visitors on your website at the exact same time to ensure that the people that are seeing the variations and the time frame in which they are seeing them are as close to exact as possible to ensure that the results of the test are as valid as possible. Also, making more than one change per test can also make it more difficult to understand which change caused the performance to either improve or the performance of the page to go down. And A/B testing sometimes is also known as split testing. So if you have heard it like that as well, that also means A/B testing. So why should you be A/B testing? Us as an agency, we believe that constant testing is extremely important, and this is also included in A/B testing both on the SEO, so the organic side, and the paid side in advertising. So you should A/B test because it increases conversion rates, whether that be more signups, purchases if you're an e-commerce website, application completions if you're a program or a school. It can also improve overall user experience. If you run a test that changes one element, it can be found that one element can have a huge importance on the user experience. It can also improve that user experience by device. You can run tests specifically for desktop or tablet or a user's mobile device, which can greatly improve their overall experience when they're scrolling on, say, their iPhone. And lastly, in general, the return on investment, otherwise known as the ROI, for A/B testing can be massive. Companies have found that investing in A/B testing, whether the changes are very minimal or larger, has a huge return on investment. And they're seeing that purchases are greatly increasing, applications are greatly increasing, just from a few tests that they might have ran. So now that you know why you should be A/B testing, what can you test? Essentially, anything that's on your website that affects visitor behavior can be tested. This includes, but is definitely not limited to, the button phrasing on calls to action, the button color of calls to action. Different images on your website can be tested against each other. Different UVPs, so different unique value propositions. So you could test free shipping after $50 or a free gift if you spend over $50. Different links to different portions of the website, different headlines. And these tests can also definitely be more advanced. You can try different pricing structures or different promotions or trials. You can also get developers involved if certain page changes need development work too. And on the right-hand side there, you can see the control, so the original version, and the treatment or the variation that was changed in the A/B test for Humana. They tested the page on the top that has, you can see there, a lot of text versus one that is extremely short with that call to action, get started now. And they found that variation performed much, much better because when users landed on that page, they were not overwhelmed with the amount of text. It was likely that users were seeing that and not even reading it and skipping right over it and not shopping for their Medicare plans. But when they simplified it and made it shorter and clearly saw that button there, it was way more likely that they clicked through there and signed up to hear more about their Medicare plans. So now that you know the why and the what, you can learn the how. So how do companies A/B test? The most common way that they do this is through testing tools. Us at Perfect Search, we use a tool called Visual Website Optimizer, otherwise known as VWO, and later in this training we'll actually walk through a simple test build out that is using VWO. Some other examples, Google Experiments. We typically usually see these used on the paid side. So if the paid team wants to test one landing page over another or one ad over another, they typically build that out within Google Experiments. And then other A/B testing tools to be aware of, Optimizely. This is typically seen as one of the largest tools that people in the industry use for A/B testing. It's extremely built out and a great user experience. And A/B Tasty is another great tool to use to build out A/B testing. And they offer a lot of widgets that make usually more difficult tests very easy. So you want to start an A/B test. What's the process? The first is asking a very important question: why are visitors not converting? Every test that you run, the ultimate goal should be to increase your conversion rate. You might think of a test that in your mind seems very important, but in reality it won't really impact the number of transactions or the number of signups. Then that probably isn't a good A/B test to run, at least right now. So after you figure out why are visitors not converting, you have to do some research. Understand your visitors by looking at analytics, look in Google Analytics, see who your visitors are. You can also understand the pages with the largest exit rates, bounce rates, to see if those are the pages that you need to focus on first. Then you need to come up with a hypothesis. So in this instance, changing the color of the call to action button will increase conversion rates. And then finally, you make your test. And in this instance, we'll be using VWO. So setting up a test in VWO, if we're using our account, the first thing you want to make sure is that the VWO code snippet is installed within the head of the desired site's code. Now, if there was no code snippet needed, then anyone could just run wild and make changes to anyone's website. You can make changes to Nike or Facebook, but of course, that can't be possible, so you need to have that code snippet installed that lets VWO know that we have permission to make these changes and that the changes will go live. With that said, you can still log into VWO and play around with any website you want and see what it would look like, but just understand that none of these changes will be published. You'll then enter the URL of the page that you're interested in testing in VWO. Keep in mind that if you include the homepage, it'll only be the homepage that's impacted, so make sure to have that specific page URL in there to make sure you're testing the correct page. VWO's interface overall is really easy to use, and if you ever have the chance, play around with it. And at the end, don't forget to set up goals to track and check those results often. So without goals, we wouldn't know which one is performing better, and we'll walk through that in our example. So you log into VWO, and this is what you see. We have our dashboard with any tests that we've built out. On the left-hand side there of the top screenshot, you can see we've navigated to A/B under the testing sidebar. And you can see that red arrow there pointing to the blue button that says Create. So you'll click that to begin. And then that screenshot underneath is where you'll be taken to. So you can name the test anything you like. Typically, you want to keep it organized. So we have PSM, example test, and the day that the test will be running it. So March 26th in this instance. VWO will also ask you what the hypothesis is. So as we mentioned previously, this is very important. So you want to iron out what you believe will happen when this test runs, and then also enter that URL of the specific page you want to test. So in this example, we're actually testing the home page of our own Perfect Search website. So next, once you fill all that in, you'll be led to their editor. So this is where you can click into any elements on the home page, and that little box on the left-hand screenshot will appear. So you can do things like move elements around, remove elements, edit the HTML if you're more handy and you know coding. And the most important thing is you can change the style. In this instance, the most important thing. So the style is where you can change the font color, the font size, the background color, the text itself. So you can see in this test example, we've opened up that edit style and we've changed our current contact us button from pink to a very interesting tangerine orange, which we might not necessarily want to run with, but for the sake of this example, we've chosen. So after you have finished making those changes, you're happy with it, you're going to want to track those goals. So you can create the goals you want to track either in the editor directly, or you also have the opportunity to add more after you're done creating your test within this editor too. I typically like to build out my goals within the editor itself. It makes it a lot easier and ensures that you're tracking the correct elements. And one more thing to talk about in terms of A/B testing is you do want to be mindful that if you delete an element or move it around in the editor itself and it appears to be working, there is a big chance that it might not actually have worked and something could break on the site itself. So if you're thinking about moving elements around or deleting them, be more hesitant because that could cause an issue on the back end versus swapping an image out or changing a color or changing the headline copy. So back to creating goals. You see here, if you click on Contact Us, at the very bottom, there's that track clicks option. So if you click that, you can label that goal and click Set Up. And then from that point on, when the test is running, anytime anyone clicks on that orange or pink, if they are served with the original version, it will be tracked. If you don't want to create this out in the editor, you can also do it after the fact, like I had mentioned. And on the right-hand side, there is that example there where you can click track clicks on a link or an element, and add that URL that it's leading to. And you can play around with different types of goals afterwards as well. If you want to track multiple goals, you are free to do so. So lastly, you can set up the visitors, the amount of visitors that will see one variation or the other. This is kind of the final section of the settings. We typically have 50% seeing version A and 50% seeing version B, just so it's equal and there isn't an imbalance there. After you set up those final few questions that VW asks, you can click Start Now, or you can preview the campaign, make sure it looks right, and start it later. Again, this is where you'll also see that Install VWO Smart Code. They provide it for you right there. Make sure that it is included in the code already to make sure it can actually go live. Otherwise, you can copy this code and send it on to the developer or install it yourself. After that's done, you just hit Start Now and voila, your test is live, and you can check back in frequently to see how the goals are competing against each other, which one is the front runner, and VWO will also let you know once there is a result that is statistically significant. This walks through our A/B testing training, as well as how to set up an A/B test in VWO, and we hope this helped you. Thanks.